Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phillies sweep the Washington Nationals and will preview their upcoming series with the Miami Marlins on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is another episode of Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years now over 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio side. Do a little bit of TV work as well for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Please bear with me. My voice is in shambles. That's why I missed an episode on Friday, and this whole weekend I haven't really had a voice. So not great, especially considering that I was doing a lot of work with the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. I do the Eagles post-game show over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio as soon as that game is over. And go check out. This is not a required cross-promotion. This is just me telling you they do great work. The folks over at Locked On Eagles, go check them out. The guys over there do a wonderful job, the Eagles, with a win in week one. But all that work, my throat is killing me. My voice is going, so I'm going to do my best to get through this episode as best as I can. Just bear with me and don't be like, oh, he sounds like what Chris Collinsworth sounded like in that Monday Night Football game. I don't know if you guys heard that, but it was terrible. But that's enough football talk. This is not football talk. This is Philadelphia Phillies baseball talk. This is Locked On Phillies, and it's a great time to be Locked On Phillies. The Phils have won now 5 of their last 6 games. They've won 2 straight series since that awful road trip out west. They sweep the Washington Nationals. It is their first sweep since their series with the Cincinnati Cubs that was back in August. So their first sweep of the month of September. It came on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, those games. Let's review what happened in that series with the Washington Nationals. Friday night, a 5-3 win for the Philadelphia Phillies. Noah Syndergaard got the win in that one. It was just kind of one of those games where the Phillies didn't play all that well, but they didn't play bad. They just played a lesser team, and they handled business. Nick Nelson actually got the save in that one, his first of the year. And the Phillies took care of business with Edmundo Sosa still looking absolutely incredible in that one. And then Saturday, it was the same or different margin of victory. Sorry, I'm not a big math guy. A 3-run win, an 8-5 victory that saw Ranger Suarez get his 9th win of the year. And the Phillies were better offensively in that one for sure. Putting up 8 runs is better than putting up 5 runs. And they had a couple of standout performances in that game. Ranger Suarez, first of all, on the mound. He wasn't incredible, right? But he was enough to get the win done. So I wouldn't say that his performance was incredible. But Bryce Harper hit his first home run in what felt like forever. Kyle Schwarber hit a home run. And those are the 2 guys that really helped you get to where you want to do. Edmundo Sosa had another RBI there. Nick Maton homered. Brandon Marsh homered. I believe it was the first time in forever, I'll just say, because I don't remember the exact amount of time, though. Bryce Harper's home run was to left field. Nick Maton's home run, who is a left-handed batter, was to left field. And Brandon Marsh's home run was to left field as well as a left-handed batter. It was the first time that the Phillies have hit 3 home runs in the same game to the opposite field in a long time. So impressive work of letting the ball get deep there. Kyle Schwarber's home run was in the 8th inning to put the Phillies up 8-4 and put that game out of reach. So a good offensive performance by the Philadelphia Phillies. And Ranger Suarez was solid enough to get the Phillies in position to win. Held the Nationals down, got the quality start out of it. Good work by Ranger Suarez and got the win. And then the final game of that series, which was yesterday, the Washington Nationals lost 7-5 to the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, Jose Alvarado got the win because it was a long rain delay. It actually worked out nice. A 3.5-hour rain delay is what it was, to be exact. And it was perfect because it was right in the middle of the Eagles game. So the Phillies players actually said post-game that during the rain delay, they were down in the clubhouse watching the Eagles beat the Detroit Lions. So a little bit of Philadelphia sports, loving Philadelphia sports for you there, because it's the most recent game. We'll run through the run scoring on this one. Bryce Harper doubled the deep center to score Rhys Hoskins in the first inning to get the scoring started. And then the Nationals scored in the third on a Luke Voit double. They scored in the fourth on a Cesar Hernandez single. They scored again in the fourth on a Vargas single to right. They scored in the fourth with a Meneses single to left. And it's 4-1 Nationals. And then in the bottom of the fifth, Rhys Hoskins hits a huge 3-run homer to tie the game up at 4. The top of the sixth, Meneses gets his second RBI of the game for the Washington Nationals, making it 5-4. And then Rhys Hoskins, carrying the Phillies almost by himself, it's a sacrifice fly in the bottom of the sixth to make it 5-5. And the big difference in the game, bottom of the seventh, would prove to be the winning swing. Alec Bohm homers to right field, goes the opposite way, hits one out, scores JT Realmuto, who was on base for that, and the Philadelphia Phillies wins 7-5. A strong bullpen performance by the Philadelphia Phillies in this one. Just look at what happened for the Philadelphia Phillies in relief of Aaron Nola, who only went 2 innings because of the rain delay. Christopher Sanchez, now he wasn't great. He went 3 innings pitched in relief of Aaron Nola coming out because he's that guy you can get a spot start from. He gave up 7 hits and 4 earned runs. That's not good. Then Nick Nelson gave up a run in what was the 6th inning, and it felt like the 100th inning with that long rain delay. But Jose Alvarado, who ended up getting the win, 1 inning, no runs. Seranthony Dominguez, who came back off of the injured list, 1 inning, no runs. Looked great. David Robertson comes in, closes everything down, gets the save in the 9th, 1 inning pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks. Alvarado, Dominguez, and Roberts combined for no hits given up, no runs given up, no walks given up, and a total of 5 strikeouts in the final 3 innings. Great work by the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen to put them in position to win this one. And where does it put the Philadelphia Phillies in the standings? Well, after that sweep, not only are the Phillies in playoff position, they're a game and a half up on the San Diego Padres, who are in the 3rd wildcard spot. So right now, the Phillies at 78-62, a game and a half up on San Diego. San Diego is 2 games up on Milwaukee, which means the Phillies have a 3.5 game cushion to work with as far as being in the playoffs. And actually, it's 4 games even because they have the tiebreaker over Milwaukee, if you want to view it that way. The San Francisco Giants are 9 games back of the Padres, 11.5 of games back, or sorry, 10.5 games back of your Philadelphia Phillies. They're effectively out of the race. The Phillies are looking good. It looks like Red October. And these sweeps, well, they're absolutely huge to get the Phillies to where they want to be. National Series, though, and I've said this about other series where the Philadelphia Phillies have played the Nationals earlier this year, there's not much to learn from them, right? That's just a really, really, really bad baseball team that the Phillies should never lose to. And frankly, they don't ever really lose to them. Every once in a while, they'll drop a game. They dropped the game earlier this year in a doubleheader to the Washington Nationals, but the Phillies have been dominant of the Nationals, and they should be because that's a AAA team that they're trotting out there down in Washington, and the Phillies are trotting out a playoff baseball team. So good work by the Phillies, 78-62, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more series remaining. Let's just do some quick math on the games. 3, 7, 10, 14, 16, 19, 22 games left. If they were to win all of them, they could get to 100 games, but they'd have to win out. Now, if they go and they win 12 of them, 12 of 22, so you'd have to go 12-10, 90 wins is very, very possible for your Philadelphia Phillies. So, hey, you got to do work against Miami, and then the road gets tougher with Atlanta, Toronto, Atlanta. Chicago's easy, Washington one more time, then Houston. But this next stretch coming up after this Marlins series is where you're really going to determine if the Phillies are going to, because they're going to make the playoffs, if they're going to roll in hot or if they're going to back their way in. And that will make a difference. But right now in playoff position, coming off a sweep, everything's great for the Philadelphia Phillies. And it just feels like a let's get to the playoffs and make things happen type environment. Now, coming up next, we're going to preview. It's an off day tonight, so we're going to preview the entire series with the Miami Marlins. Look at that. And then finally, in the last segment, we're going to have Off the Poll. I got an interesting question about a debate I had with some guys over at 97.5 The Fanatic. Not on the air, but just at the station. I'll explain more in the final segment. But up next, a review, or a preview rather, of the Washington Nationals. No, the Miami Marlins series in Miami that starts tomorrow. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help you out. And LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Doesn't that sound great? You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond into the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job, the purple hashtag hiring frame to your profile, and everything there will let people know that you're hiring, and it'll get the right eyes on your position that's available. There are simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on the right candidates for the right job and get you the right guys you'd like, and guys and gals that you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small business rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you to find the candidates you want to interview faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonMLB. That's linkedin.com/lockedonMLB, and you could post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Let's get ready to preview Philadelphia Phillies, Miami Marlins, the final series with the Marlins of the year. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies already handled this season series. No issues with that here, but you're not looking for a tiebreaker against Miami. You're looking for wins to make it in the playoffs. And, every single gosh darn time the Philadelphia Phillies play the Miami Marlins, it's got to be this frickin' guy. Bailey Falter, not him. Bailey Falter's been really good for the Phillies this year with what he's been asked to do. So, love Bailey Falter. But the Phillies have to see Sandy Alcantara again. They lost the game that he started last time. Now, they didn't lose it to Alcantara. They lost it later in that one because of some bullpen issues. But tomorrow night, the series will start with Bailey Falter facing off against Sandy Alcantara. And that's the Phillies, sixth time seeing him this year? It's ridiculous how many times. I'm starting to think, because I don't really keep up with the Marlins anymore. They're not really a threat, and I don't really worry about who's starting for them any given day. I'm starting to think they just rest Alcantara until the next Phillies series. I'll have to talk to Peter Pratt, who's our host of Locked On Marlins, and see if that's indeed what they're doing. But my goodness, it's annoying to have to face Alcantara every time they play a series against these guys. That being said, the Phillies have hit him better than basically any team in baseball this year. Maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to pull out another win against him tonight. But what that means then, because you start against Alcantara, but also because you throw Falter, the focus has to be on games 2 and 3 of the series. Game 2, the pitching matchup, Kyle Gibson goes for the Philadelphia Phillies. That game will be on Wednesday at 6:40. All of these games, 6:40 starts down there in Miami, so 5 minutes sooner than what they would be playing here in Philadelphia. And he'll face Edward Cabrera. And Cabrera hasn't been bad. Now, he's been somewhat limited in 2022. Not full starter numbers, but he has 54 2/3 innings pitched already this year. So that's a good amount of sample size. He's 5-2 with a 2.63 ERA, 59 Ks, which is because of the inning amount, but a 108 whip. He's been really darn good because of, the Marlins. I don't even know how to put this, why he's been so good, because he's a young pitcher. He's only 24. I kind of think he gets lost in the shuffle with Sandy Alcantara and the guy that the Phillies are going to face in the third game of this series, who pitched pretty darn well against them last time. Or actually, no, they're not going to see Luzardo. They're going to see Pablo Lopez, so I apologize about that. Thank goodness it's only Alcantara and not and you don't have to see their best two pitchers. But Gibson versus Cabrera is a good game, and one that the Phillies will have to be fully prepared for, because the first two pitchers of the series are not walkovers for the Miami Marlins. The good news is that team is collapsing in on itself. They have nothing to play for anymore, so that lineup is not really going to be too motivated. And Alcantara's vying for a season award. Cabrera is a young pitcher. Those guys still have some things to play for, but veterans on the team are probably not all that invested in the final 6 series of the year or whatever Miami has left. And then the final game, I already told you that the starter for the Miami Marlins in Game 3, which will be on Thursday, is Pablo Lopez, who has a 4.04 ERA, 151 Ks, an 8-10 record this year, and a 1.24 WHIP. Clearly the most susceptible pitcher to being beat out of the 3 that the Phillies face. He's only 26. He's got some good years ahead of him. Just hasn't been a great year for him, slightly below what they expected for him, but still an average MLB pitcher. The Phillies will throw Noah Syndergaard on Thursday. And Syndergaard is a clean 9-9 even record with a 4.09 ERA, 87 Ks, a 1.28 WHIP. Listen, when you look at the pitchers, the benefit of this series, the needle of which team is more set up to win games in this series, points towards the Miami Marlins. Now, the Phillies are a better overall team, but they're going to have to show it and play like it. They've got better momentum. I want to look at exactly, because I checked before last series, but I want to look at the Marlins schedule and see exactly what they've been doing recently, because, yeah, they've been losing a lot. Let's count this up. 1, 2, 3 wins in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They have 3 wins in their last 15 games. So they've gone 3-13 in their last, 3-12 in their last 15 games. So not at all good for them. Not a good stretch. They just lost 2 or 3 to the Mets. They just lost 1 of 2 to the Rangers. They haven't won a series since who knows when, since they played the Oakland Athletics, and they haven't won a series against a Major League Baseball team since they beat the Padres forever ago. So this is not really a situation where you should be too worried about the Miami Marlins if you're the Phillies, or if you're a Phillies fan. And still, the pitching seems tough. So this is one of those series where the lineup is going to have to travel. They're going to have to go down there to South Florida and prove that they're a playoff team that's hot right now, and take advantage of a Miami Marlins team that's already packed up their bags and is ready for their mid-fall vacation. So I guess it'd be early fall vacation, because fall doesn't technically start until September 21st. Very close to fall, by the way. Red October is right around the corner. I say all this to say it's an opportunity for the Philadelphia Phillies to continue this hot stretch that they're on. And with some tough series coming up, they really need to bear down on the beatable Miami team down there in Miami in the last series they'll play against this team, to just fully prove to the fan base that we don't have to be worried about the Miami Marlins anymore, as like the boogeyman, as I've called them so many times, of the Philadelphia Phillies. So that's what you have coming up in tomorrow's episode. Because the Phillies have an off day tonight, we won't have a game to review. I'll take a deeper dive into the first game of that series that'll be played on Tuesday night at 6:40. And we'll discuss it a little bit more in depth once we have the lineup and everything tomorrow, what's going on there. But a tough series at face value for the Philadelphia Phillies. Don't expect them to just walk in there and handle the Miami Marlins like they stink. But you also shouldn't expect them to go in there and lose the series, because this is a significantly more talented baseball team. That's what I've got for that segment, and we've got Off the Poll coming up. I want to ask you an interesting poll about the Philly you're looking at to contribute the most, or maybe who has the most on their plate the rest of the way. I'll kind of break down how I want to phrase it coming up next. I'm going to give you guys a couple options to pick from in the actual Twitter poll. I understand there may be more than this, but we only get 4 options in the Twitter poll. So I want to go ahead and list these out for you and pick the guys who I think are at the top of the list for most impactful down the stretch. I'll explain all of that next as we do Off the Poll, our poll asking, our Twitter poll segment, and I'll explain more about what it is coming up next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, it's time for Off the Poll. Now, Off the Poll, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a play on words, hitting the ball off the pole in baseball, home run. So we're hoping the segment is a home run, and it's a poll question segment where I post a poll at LO_Phillies on Twitter. It's also retweeted from my account at ConnorThomas975 on Twitter. You can go ahead and give us both follows there. Support what we're doing here over at Locked On Phillies and get your best Phillies content up to date. I tweet about the games all the time. I tweet from the Locked On Phillies account all the time about the games and the lineups and things like that. So good accounts for you to follow if you're a huge Philadelphia Phillies fan like I know you are. But anyway, we post the poll question, and then the next show, or in this case, because we had the off day and because I didn't get stuff out over the weekend because I've been feeling a little bit under the weather, well, we're going to go ahead and jump into this one on Wednesday's program. But our poll question, we'll put it out there, and then on Wednesday, I'll review the answer and who picked what and what percentage was what, and then I'll tell you what I think. I try not to bias with my opinion on which of these options is the one that I would choose. But for this week's poll question, I got in an interesting debate over at 97.5 The Fanatic. Not on the air, just something we were talking about in the back hallway, me and a couple of the guys that work over there, about the Philly you're looking at that has to be most impactful down the stretch for the Philadelphia Phillies over these final 6 series. Not to make the playoffs, because I think the Phillies are already in, But what Philly are you looking at to be the most impactful? And I've come up with 4 names. The first one is Aaron Nola. The second one is Bryce Harper. 2 obvious answers there. With Zach Wheeler still dealing with his injury and not sure when he's going to be back totally yet, Aaron Nola is your best pitcher. Bryce Harper is your best position player. So that's those 2 options there. I'm going to go with another bullpen arm, and then I'm going to go with another position player, someone who plays the field. For me, I'm going to add JT Realmuto to this. I think he's your most important defensive player with what he's done behind the dish, not only catching pitchers, but throwing runners out. So it'll be Bryce Harper, Aaron Nola, JT Realmuto, or, and I'll bring up the guy who just came off the injured list, who clearly looks dominant, who appears to be the guy that holds this bullpen together, Seranthony Dominguez. And I understand there could be others. You might say, hey, it's David Robertson. You might say, hey, it's Rhys Hoskins. It might be Alec Boehm. It might be Brandon Marsh or Kyle Schwarber, or if Nick Castellanos comes back before the season is over with his oblique strain. I understand there are more. But of those 4, and again, it's Bryce Harper, Aaron Nola, JT Realmuto, and Seranthony Dominguez. Who do you need to be the most impactful player down the stretch for the Philadelphia Phillies? So I'll post that poll out. We'll get that all out at LO_Phillies and at Connor Thomas 975. You can respond on there, and I will tell you what I think and review what you vote on Wednesday's episode. And hopefully we'll have some good news by then about the Phillies' first game Tuesday night, and it'll be a fun show. Well, it'll be a fun show either way. And today was a fun show despite the off day because we're reviewing a sweep, and the Phillies have won 5 of their last 6. Things are great in Philadelphia Phillies land, and let's hopefully keep them that way. But an easy night tonight. Enjoy the off night. Enjoy the time away from baseball so that we can get ready for this home stretch and head into Red October together. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sully, he's amazing. He covers baseball the league-wide, not just a specific team. So he has all the big news, the breaking news, great storylines, historical stories. I always feel weird saying historical stories because it feels repetitive, but great historical knowledge of the game and everything like that. He's been around the game forever. Go check out Sully's work on Locked On MLB. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube, so go check that out. And check us out on YouTube if you haven't. Rate, review, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. Do all that good stuff. You know what to do to keep social channels running. Help us out here on Locked On Phillies because we're heading down the home stretch, and we want to make sure you get all of your content for the Phillies run to a Red October. I will talk to you next time. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies.